Hi, and coming up next, the first of our many founder stories today features Jason Gardner, founder and chief executive officer of Marqeta. Jason started Marqeta in 2009 with the vision of simplifying payments. Built from the ground up, Marqeta enables developers to launch applications with speed, flexibility, and scale. Marqeta has evolved into the world's first open API modern card issuing platform. In this founder story session, we'll hear directly from Jason, the journey, the challenges that came with that, and future of Marqeta. To pose questions to Jason, click on the yellow button beneath the sessions window. Let's join Jason now to learn more about the origins of Marqeta.
I know it's the end of the day for you over there. It's mid-morning for us over here.
Yes.
Let's kick it off so that you can get back the rest of your evening with your family. So
That sounds great. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So in 2018, Goldman Sachs named you as one of the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs. So do you think you're intriguing, and why?
I don't necessarily think I'm intriguing, and if you ask my 12-year-old daughter, she wouldn't find me intriguing either. I think as an entrepreneur, when you build something, which at the time when you build it, you don't really think of it as something that is going to change industries or be able to support companies like Uber or support companies like Square. The work is done by a lot of people. I came up with the idea. I lead the company. That is an outcome, the Goldman Sachs Award for the top 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs. I'm intriguing because a lot of people have helped me build a great company, and I guess I'm the beneficiary of that award.
Well, congratulations for that anyway. Well, you're most well known for being a 3-time entrepreneur, founding Vertical Think, Property Bridge, and then now with Marqeta. But your entrepreneurial journey actually started much earlier, didn't it? You started hustling when you were 5. Now, not many 5-year-olds actually even know the value of money. So what was it, you think, that gave you this desire to make money?
It wasn't the money, it was the work. I loved working with my hands when I was a kid. And when it snowed, I would grab a shovel and make money shoveling people's driveways. I would cut their lawns. I'd pick weeds out of their garden. There's something I found really fascinating as a child, doing work and receiving money directly for that work. I had dreams when I was a little kid of owning a landscaping business. When I entered high school, I had my own tie-dye business. I had a tie-dye business in college as well. I worked my way through college. And then the ideas got bigger, and I got bolder in regards to the work that I wanted to do. And the work around Marqeta today is about product market fit, timing, a lot of luck, and skill in regards to, it is my 3rd company. So I understand the work that I need to do to get it to where it is today. But Marqeta and where it is today, we're the leader in modern card issuing, is about being in the right place at the right time, finding product market fit, and building out a platform that companies can build card products, whether it's Visa cards or MasterCards or Discover cards. And then we support a lot of these great businesses in these large verticals, such as on-demand services, lending, expense management, digital banks, large tech companies, and large issuers. Mm-hmm. And I can certainly get into some examples of how they use the cards, if that's helpful.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I do want to speak more about Marqeta a little later, but I do want to also get more about the journey that you spent getting there. So going back to that, growing up, do you think your parents had something to do with building and encouraging and nurturing that entrepreneur in you?
Yes. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He had a tuxedo shop on M Street in Washington, D.C. My cousin is an entrepreneur. I I grew up with friends who, had their own businesses. I had friends who had family businesses. And I found a lot of fascination around that. My first company, Vertical Think, got started because I had a desire to have my own business. It wasn't successful. I didn't know what I was doing, but failure teaches you a lot. And second company, Property Bridge, allowed you to pay rent electronically. That was successful. Myself and my co-founders sold that to MoneyGram International back in 2007. And then I founded Marqeta by myself. I knew what I wanted to build. I knew the culture I wanted to build. I knew the technology I wanted to build. And having that level of control really helped me decide the things that I wanted to get done and what was important to me. And obviously, we've all found success in that original concept.
Mm-hmm. You talked about failure earlier. So in the year like this, when you talk about a pandemic, you talk about resilience and survival for some businesses as well. You've gone through a few failures. Things didn't work. Marqeta, at one point, you were even running out of money. What were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind at that time?
Failure, or the thought of failure as an entrepreneur, drives you in different ways. That was around our Series C. I was horribly depressed. I didn't know whether we were going to make it or not, but I was lucky in that I had leverage in raising the capital that I needed to go raise, and that leverage really helped me. One of the investors that needed to invest money was a strategic investor. They needed us to build a product. We had a contractual obligation to go do that. I knew that they didn't want us to fail. And they challenged me to go out and raise some more money to trigger their check. I did that in about 3 days. They wrote their check, and then we ended up raising an extraordinary amount of money for our Series C. And that allowed us to get to the next step, which was really releasing our open API. And that really was the product market fit that gave us the magic to take off and obviously get to where we are today, which is we believe a pioneer in modern card issuing. We're a global company. We operate in the US, Canada, Europe. We operate in Asia, starting with Australia. But the Asian market for FinTech and payments is going to become one of the biggest markets in the world in the coming years. So you'll find us doing a lot more within Asia, starting with supporting our existing customers.
I think, in a few of your answers, you mentioned the word luck or lucky a few times. So let me just bring in a quote that you said before. You said, being an entrepreneur is like being struck by lightning. It's not you find an idea, it's an idea finds you. But how do you recognize an idea when it comes knocking at your door? How did you hone that instinct of knowing that's a great idea and that's what you're going to move on?
I think a lot of us have ideas. You probably have ideas, that like, hey, I got this idea, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to build it? You feel like you're trying to create the energy to go and do that, to want to be an entrepreneur and go and build. And it's difficult. It's being an entrepreneur it's a tough life in beginning to where now we are today, which is, it's a lot of work, but I have an amazing team of people, amazing customers that really helps propel the company and has its kinetic energy. And when I talk about either an idea, you have an idea or an idea has you, when the idea has you, it feels like you're being struck by lightning. It's like, oh, I get it now. I understand what I want to do. I want to put time into it. The Marqeta's idea came over a plate of sushi. A very good friend of mine, Suki Singh, he and I were eating sushi, and I was at the time trying to figure out what I wanted to do next and come up with payment ideas. And he said, hey, you're a payment nerd. Why don't you try to put a bunch of coupons on a card? And that was very technically complex. I like very technically complex problems. I thought, why hasn't anyone done this before? And then began to dig into how to go solve that problem. And I found part of the payment card system. So something you do and I do every day, which is buy things, whether online or offline. The payment card ecosystem is made up of 4 parties: a bank, a network like Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, China Union Pay. There's many different card networks, hundreds of card networks around the world. Acquirers, which you're paying into, like that'd be tapping your phone, swiping your card, inserting your card, or paying online. And then there's this thing called an issuer processor, and we're ultimately responsible for authorizing or declining the card's transactions, but I knew nothing about it, even though I was already in the payments industry. And when I began looking at issuing and processing and finding out that no one had built a new issuer processor from scratch in decades, that the idea had me, and then the complexity of the technology had me, and then wanting to go solve that problem had me, and that really drove me to say, this is what I'm going to do, for the next decade, was go solve this problem. And without that, you don't have the passion or the energy to put into it, because the work in the early days is formidable. It's very, very hard to raise money, hire people, when they have a lot of competing opportunities, and you're trying to find the smartest people you possibly can, who like the risk of building from scratch.
Mm-hmm. You talked about people. In Property Bridge, you worked with partners, and after that, you said you didn't want to work with partners anymore, and that's why you went on your own into Marqeta. Have you changed that impression, or has it changed? Is it still always?
No, it didn't. It was the right choice at the time. When I left my last company after MoneyGram acquired us, I was on a contract for 2 years. The relationship between myself and my co-founders was actually pretty toxic. We had different ideas and different outcomes that we wanted. And I just decided that, this is my 3rd company. I know what to do. I don't need someone to partner with or find a co-founder. I can do this by myself. And when I had the idea to start the company, I didn't want to ask permission of other people. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, starting with our values, starting with our vision and mission, starting with our purpose as a company, and then going and starting from scratch. It's been an incredible journey over 10 years. We're just getting started, and I still have, the entrepreneurial spirit in me. I feel like I'm getting struck by lightning a lot lately. There's a lot going on in FinTech around the world, so I have a lot more ideas. They're just really grounded now in Marqeta and what we can build globally.
Mm-hmm. Am I right that you call your team, members of your team, Marqetans?
We call them Marqetans, and I refer to them as my business partners. I don't necessarily like the word employees. It sounds like they're in service to me, and I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm in service to them. I look at a org chart at me at the top, and I want to turn it upside down because I want to be in service to them. So they're my business partners. They are subject matter experts in the work that they do to help me and many other people build the company. But they are Marqetans, which is how we refer to each other.
Yeah. So how do you encourage a culture of innovation among the Marqetans?
It's in service to our values. Our values are, most importantly to Marqetans, is build one Marqeta. I'm a strong believer in, if you all are anchored in your vision, mission, values, and purpose, you can really build a formidable business. You can enter any market, you can tackle any technology, you can go up against any competitor, and be formidable in your beliefs. Other examples of our values: deliver results, quality first, connect the customer. So connect the customer is in our vernacular all the time, whether we're building a feature, writing a line of code, talking about entering a country. We always say connect the customer, and that is a forcing function to us to make sure that we're making the right decisions at the right time.
Right, let's talk a little bit about Marqeta now. For some months now, there's been talk that Marqeta is planning to launch an IPO. No one from the company will confirm or deny it so far. So since I have you here, can you confirm that Marqeta is preparing to go public?
We don't talk about any of our paths to some sort of liquidity event publicly. We're really just focused on building the business. We run a very complex infrastructure. We run it at massive scale. We support a lot of great companies like DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, JP Morgan Chase. We announced as a large issuer supporting with our tokenization as a service product. So operating at this scale is really about really grounding us in our values and making sure that we're moving forward. So we don't talk about publicly about our any sort of liquidity event that may or may not be happening. We're just really focused on the business.
What if I changed it a little bit to say, is that a possible end goal at some point? Where are you working Marqeta towards? Where are you growing?
I think an IPO is possible for any company, if that's ultimately what you want to do. When I was that 5-year-old kid shoveling people's driveways, I wasn't thinking about, hey, I want to be a public company CEO when I grow up. But I am very lucky and blessed to have Marqeta and have great Marquetans and great customers. And we're just scratching the surface. We have a lot more that we want to build. We're also in a time where we're seeing a convergence of software and payments. I guarantee you today, as you spend, there is software behind that. We're also seeing where consumers, especially here in the United States, where it's really a card-first culture, we're finding cash and check to card and now card to mobile. And now we're seeing in a time of COVID where cash is declining. It's declined 45% here in the U.S., 58% in the UK, 84% in Sweden. So this digitization of currency is happening very, very quickly.
Right. Well, earlier this year, right in the middle of the pandemic, Marqeta announced the $150 million fundraise. Now, this came obviously at a time of uncertainty, at a time when purse strings are being tightened. So how did you pull it off?
We weren't raising money. We had done a round less than a year before. And we had been getting a lot of incoming calls for folks that want to give us capital. We got a call from one company who I find is the gold standard in asset management. I met the person who was interested in investing. It happened personally. We had a lot of connections. We both love to play music. We both love the same music. We both have a love for technology. And at the stage we're at is it comes down to people, like doing a business or having investors. It really starts with the people and end up building a great relationship and then end up closing a $150 million round. Also, we've announced MasterCard invested as part of that round and valuing the company at $4.3 billion. So we felt that, in a time of COVID, it was smart for us to raise money. We haven't touched that money at all. But, we felt like it was the right thing to do at the right time. Now we have two great investors and obviously, the company is doing well and we're investing in that growth.
That's lucky that people are actually knocking on your door to give you money, but it was not always like that. And you've said before, and I quote here, anything you do, whether it's hiring somebody or raising capital, 90% of it is psychological. People are investing in you. And you've also mentioned the fact that 90% of communication is nonverbal. And I guess you make use of that when you go out there, you speak to your investors. And that's very enlightened. I'm a media coach and I often tell the CEOs that that come to me at this exact point. And you'd be surprised how many people actually don't believe it. So why do you think you have that sense? Was it from experience? Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, you should tell them Jason said that verbal communication, 90% of communication is nonverbal. It is.
I will, by the way.
What's that?
I will.
I have found so in the beginning when you're raising money, when you in your seed round, it's 100% psychological because you don't have anything to show anybody. You really just have an idea and this passion coming out of you. I had experience. I built 2 other businesses. One failed, one was successful. So I had a track record of sorts. And a lot of investors invest in the entrepreneur. Like, can this person, you hear this a lot, like, do you invest in an idea or do you invest in the team? You should be investing in the team all day long. And if that team has a great culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you have a great entrepreneur, great team, great values, great culture, it's part of becoming that formidable business. So back in, a long time ago, I worked for a company named Gardner Group, which is in the research space. And I took a course called The Science of Sales. And it was all about nonverbal communication. And I didn't buy it. Like, I didn't really think like, oh, nonverbal communication, how could that be? And I became a true believer in the idea of how you approach people. And in lots of different cultures, it changes all the time based on the culture that you're involved in. But nonverbal communication is really important. I also happen to be someone who is very extroverted. I really like other people. I've traveled to a lot of countries, and I've always found it's not the things I see, it's the people I meet that I remember. So part of building a business is the people. Part of traveling around the world is people. You and I have never met before, but if we see each other again in person, like, we'll talk about this time. And like, that's a great part of building a business, raising money, convincing people to join your company. It's really connecting with another human being and finding common ground in those discussions. Mm-hmm. And part of that is absolutely nonverbal communication.
Yeah, and I really do hope we'll meet one day. But, we've got about a minute left of our time, but I don't want to leave this without talking a little bit about Asia and your foray into Asia and what barriers you're facing coming into Asia. Just looking at Southeast Asia alone, it's so diverse. Income gap is huge. The economies there are completely, are mostly unbanked, and those who have gone digital quite easily. So what challenges are you facing coming into this part of the world?
Well, there's challenges of countries have heavy regulations, and they should. You're dealing with the personal information of their citizens, especially in our world in FinTech. You're seeing transactions which have to do with where people live, where people play, and where people work. So making sure that you're operating around those challenges. Obviously, you have a predominant cash culture. And it's convincing humans or citizens who operate in cash moving to a card-based culture or a mobile-based culture. The good news is countries like Singapore, countries like Thailand, countries like Japan are investing, the governments are investing in FinTech and really trying to modernize their infrastructure, which helps companies like Marqeta as they come in so that we can help and build and really service our current constituency of customers in those countries while finding new opportunities within those countries.
Right, brilliant. Very, very short, quick answers. Worst decision, best decision you've ever made?
Wow.
Put you on the spot there, didn't I?
I never see a decision as the worst decision. It's always a learning. Probably the best decision is marrying my wife. She's been with me for 21 years. She's been through 3 companies with me. She also happens to be a psychotherapist. So she has been a great partner of mine as I've built Marqeta out.
Great. You scored some points there. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Jason. Thank you for your time. I'll let you go right now to spend the rest of the evening with your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate your interest in Marqeta.
Thank you.